we spoke about the shallow sticks, did a nice bit about them. So now we've got the Speci Wagglers. So 1, 2 and 3.
This is one of those stories, a bit like some of the other things I've done that worked. It's probably best to tell it in reverse.
Right.
The number 3 Speci Waggler is a float that I used to call thick Speci Waggler at one time when I first brought it out. This float was created, whatever you want, in Bewdley in 2001 when I lived there. And I used to fish in the evening some really fast flowing pegs, float fishing for barbel. And I wanted to fish at that time with 020, 022 lines, thick lines. But the problem was to fish the middle of the river with a waggler. I wanted the heavier the line goes, the bigger the float has to become to get it there to cast the line.
Yes.
So then if you're looking at, I want something that takes 4 or 5 swan shots, bodied wagglers, that sort of thing come to mind, but they're all going too long.
Yeah,
and
they are long, aren't they?
And they're too thin.
Yeah.
For what I wanted, they're too thin. Right. What we're going to talk about is obvious now. It wasn't obvious then at all because nobody had done it before. So I set about, because I lived there and I wanted to try different things, I made floats and I was just going more and more buoyant and thicker with balsa. Eventually it seemed obvious. So one night I made these in this diameter and it was incredible. What followed was, I used to use Maxima then. I'd got a £5 or £6 Maxima. There was a lot of barbel in the river on the pegs I fished. And suddenly I could cast £5 or £6 line easily because the float was big enough and heavy enough to take it there. But more importantly, when it was there, and it's going this way, when it was there, that buoyancy, I could see it easily and it wouldn't drag under. Right, it was catching the bottom to go like this, go like this, go like this. A barbel had it stayed under.
Yeah.
Right. And it was just a fantastic revelation at the time. I ended up doing that one and that one, which at the time I called thick Speci Waggler and thin Speci Waggler. Right, it's an obvious thing. Obviously, as time's gone on, we've then got the number 1, which is, I've renumbered everything and redone the whole thing. So that the number 1 is basically a follow-on from Peacock. It gives you a bit more buoyancy up top, right? So you can drag the bottom better. It runs from like 2 treble A up to 6 treble A, 3 swan shots. But these, where it really comes in fast turbulent water, the number 2 runs from 2 treble A to 6 treble A, and then this one goes from 2 swan to 6 swan. Now the interesting story about this as well, the follow on from this, when I first started to do these, before we'd even got the brand, I used to end up selling loads. I used to get phone calls from lots of people wanting to buy them in different parts of the country. And I'm thinking, hang on, they've got no fast shallow water down where he is, Bristol. And it turns out that these were the forerunner of pellet wagglers.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So the lads down there were buying the 2 and the 3 and the 4 swan, used them with shots round, and then they had the different connectors. But they were the start of Speci Wagglers. Sorry,
pellet wagglers.
Start of pellet wagglers.
Yeah.
Lost your float, but there you go.
That's right. The cleaner will pick it up.
Yeah, they were the start of it. So whenever now you're looking at the water from around about 3 foot to 6 foot, Speci Wagglers are where it's at. And if we look at all 3 again, that sort of depth I've been talking about is about right for all these type of floats. Right. So if you've got sort of medium type flow, that sort of speed, that sort of float's right for it. If it goes through a bit faster, really hard to describe speed in terms of how fast is it, walking pace or how fast you walk. But basically, it's about beating the flow and everything.
Yeah.
So again, that is for when it's a bit quicker, and your thick one is when it's ripping through. And the lovely thing about that, there's so much buoyancy in the tip. When you cast and you mend it, it just pops back up again.
Yeah.
Right?
I can see that.
Right, so you can imagine sometimes we end up fishing with a 5 or 6 swan float, and we undershot it by as much as a swan shot. So then you've got all that yellow and that sticking out.
Yeah.
And of course, you imagine that dragging over rocks and deviations in the riverbed. It might just almost pull it under. you'll be ready to pounce on it, but then it'll pop back up again.
Yeah.
But the minute that fish grabs it, because bear in mind there, so it's, you imagine now the current's coming towards us, that bait's underneath there, so that fish comes at the bait. He's not seeing this; he's just seeing he's seeing maggots coming at him, right? And then that 3 or 4 on the hook, he picks it out, and by the time it's over the top of him, it's under.
Yeah.
And you are up there, and you're striking, you've got it.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's such an exciting form of fishing, and for me, personally, it was just a revelation when and they're so simple.
Yeah,
so
they
simple.
are.
Such
Yeah.
simple floats, really. But
Yeah.
it's for shallow water, 3 to 6 foot, and for heavier lines. That one I'd fish with 0.20, 0.22, 6 or 7 pound.
Yeah.
The middle one probably is more of a chub type waggler, chub, dace, that sort of fish. I'd use that typically with like 18, 020, and then that one is following on from Pico, so you'd use that with 016, 018.
Yeah. So for my dace problem, the story that's gone all the way through these videos is we're going to try this one.
I think so.
Right.
I think so. I think you'll find if you use the smaller versions, right, you use a 2A or a 3 treble A, providing you can get the distance you're fishing.
Yeah.
Quite often, and people just don't realise, quite often, a little dumpy float like that will work much better than a stick float.
Yeah.
Now, if you've got flow, you've got to have a decent flow to make it work. But the minute that's going, you can just fish with 2 number 8s down the line.
Yeah.
Fish takes it, just drag straight under. But you can't wait.
That's the one.